What's going on, guys? Appreciate you tuning in. We got to talk some Suns. And the dominoes, as I continue to say, continue to fall right now for this team. And the latest one isn't necessarily what they did do. It's kind of what they did do, and they let Tyus Jones walk. And now he is headed to the Magic, reportedly on a 1-year, $7 million deal. Not like terribly surprising because call it like it is. It was a really disappointing season for him in Phoenix. I really loved that signing. I thought he was going to be great for the Suns as a guy that just took care of the ball. He hardly ever turns it over. He was coming off a year where he had a 7-to-1 assist to turnover ratio before he came to Phoenix. And you just wanted a guy to run the offense that could find KD in spots, that could find Booker in spots, that could find Beal in spots. In theory, it was a perfect mix of a guy that could still consistently hit enough threes that you couldn't play off of him. And his numbers weren't horrendous this season, but the impact just was not there. He averaged 10 points this past year, down from 12 the year before. He was down a couple assists a game, down to 5.3 when he was at 7.3 the year before that. Turnovers were about the same. Shooting splits were really honestly about the same, but it was not nearly as impactful. And it got so bad, it got to the point where they ended up benching him, if you remember, mid-January, somewhere around there. And, the team was searching for answers. They weren't sure exactly what to do, but ended up him not being the answer. I was waiting to see if they were going to run it back with him with this new coaching staff and give it a try, because there was a reason people were super excited about him going to Phoenix. He's a talented guy and has shown he could be more than capable as a starting point guard and be successful for your team. Now he goes to the Magic, who the only thing they needed was a point guard, and now all of a sudden they look like in the East where everyone is banged up. They could be really good next year. But that doesn't help the Suns. The Suns went into the draft knowing that they need to figure out a point guard. Didn't get anything close to a point guard in that draft. Now the one guy on the roster who really was a point guard, you still have Colin Gillespie who you re-signed, but are we going to go into a season with that being the starting point guard? Even if that's a bridge point guard until you're able to get the guy you want maybe next year. That's a tough season. That's a tough look. So they're still without kind of the answer right there. And free agency moves fast. There's a lot of guys that are already off the board. And so now it's what guys are left? What guys are you interested in? What guys do you want to try and go after? And I wrote down a couple of the guys that kind of the 5 guys that are left that really kind of you could see being a starter, or at least kind of a makeshift starter for a year or two. It's not great for most of them. Dennis Schroder. Guy not necessarily known as a pass-first point guard. A guy that had success coming off the bench with the Lakers. But when he went to Detroit and some other stops, it's not exactly like he lit the world on fire. And known as a guy that's kind of aggressive and can make plays, but there's you lose something on return game the more minutes that you get for him. That slowly it starts to come back to bite you. I don't know if that's the guy that you want to be your true starting point guard. Then you get the keys to the car and you're like, hey, go out there and, play 30 minutes a night for us and see what happens. Because he's not fully into being a guy that you trust in that position. He can score a little bit. He had a pretty decent year. 13 points a game this last year, 5 assists, 5.5 assists. Shot pretty well and was on a Detroit team that went on a really nice run. Made the playoffs for the first time ever. It looks like they are really starting to turn the corner. Now, the belief is he's going to pull 9, maybe 10 million here in the free agency. I don't know if the Suns want to pay that much right now, especially with the reports that they're getting ready to try and sign Book to this 2-year, $150 million extension Book's going to be making $75 million a year. Your salary cap problems are going to go through the roof when that happens, but that's a problem for another day. If you want to maintain any kind of relevancy, you're going to have to try and keep Book. But Schroder doesn't make sense for this fit for me. He's good. He's talented enough to be a starting point guard still, but it has to be the really right team. And I don't see Phoenix being the right team right now. Malcolm Brogdon. 5 years ago, that sounds like a great option. Not so much anymore. It just seems like he has really fallen off a little bit since the time that he had with the Celtics. I mean, he at one point was, I want to say he was almost an all-star if he wasn't an all-star. He was in that realm. Had some really good years with Milwaukee, had some good years at Indiana, and he goes to Boston, and it's, yeah. But, I mean, he had a year averaging 21, 5, and 6 for the Pacers. It's pretty solid. Signed a massive deal, and he's coming off that deal where he was making, I forgot the totals of it at the beginning, but this past season he was making $22 million. No way he's making that with the Suns or anybody else. He's lost a lot since being that player. Got his payday. He ain't making that, and he actually doesn't make all the problems. I mean, he makes pretty good sense for the Suns, a guy that can shoot and control the ball a little bit and makes good decisions. If he's going to be your bridge point guard, you could do a lot worse. He's not for $22 million. You ain't paying him that. But if you can sign him on a $5 million deal, 2 for 10, somewhere around there, that's a pretty good option. A guy that's going to be an adult in the room. A guy that's going to take care of the ball, and they can at least hold down the fort for a couple of years or a year until you get the point guard of the future that this team needs. A guy that can still shoot, that can distribute and find, Book when those options are there. Going to need a lot of help on defense. The team's going to need a lot of help regardless. It's not going to be competing this year. But that's not a bad piece. Brogdon is an interesting piece if they can get him for the right price. Got to be some other, interesting suitors out there for him, but I don't hate that one. Spencer Dinwiddie. A little bit of the same Schroder situation you got. He can score a little bit. Can shoot a little bit. He had some great years, very good years with the Nets. Coming off like a interesting season, being over there in Dallas. Hopped around a little bit now in this league. There's a reason he's hopped around a little bit. He's good enough that you don't mind him on your team, but he's not so good that you don't hate it when he leaves and you're willing to let him walk. Again, a guy that could be your bridge point guard for a year, more of a scorer than a passer and not tremendous defensively, but I think you trust him making plays more than Dennis Schroder. And so, in theory, he could be a guy that you could have for a year. Now, how much you're going to have to pay him? Probably not a ton. He was only making $3 million this past year for Dallas. You get something similar, you can live with that for 2 years, a year. Let that happen. The guys that are out there, you're not going to light the world on fire. And you're not looking for long-term deals with any of these guys. Because there's no point guard out on the market that could be a franchise point guard for you for a long-term situation. So you're just looking for a bridge gap for a couple of years. Dinwiddie's an adult, too. He could be in the room and help mentor some of these other guys, help them right now in this transition. He's kind of later in his career. Is he searching for a ring? Is he searching for something that matters? Or does he just want a couple more paychecks? It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. For $3 million, you can live with that. That'd be all right. Gary Payton II. He kind of drifted away into nothingness for a while. Then he goes back and he does okay with the Warriors. he forever looks like a guy that has done well in that system with the Warriors, and every time he leaves, doesn't do much. Coming off the final year of that little 3-year deal where he was making, I think, like $27 million, somewhere around there, 26, 27 million. He's an unrestricted free agent, so no matter what they offer, like, the Warriors would have to decline to match it. I don't know if you want to pay $9 million for him for a year. Like, you really like him as your backup point guard, a guy that comes in, plays defense, that can hit a couple of shots, run a couple of plays, and fill in minutes for you. I don't know if you want him for 30 minutes tonight, though. That's a lot. I don't know if you want him as your main ball-handling, distributing point guard. But there's not a lot out there. And again, I have a hard time believing that the Warriors will just let him walk and that they aren't going to match that, even, unless you go out there and outbid him like crazy. But do you want to pay $10 million? Do you want to pay $15 million for Gary Payton for the second for 2 years? That's a big pill to swallow. And then the name that everyone is interested in. What's the chances that Chris Paul would come back for a couple more years to finish out his career here? He's at the tail end of his career. There's a lot of reasons why this makes sense. He's at the tail end of his career. I think he's kind of tired of really traveling around and changing all these teams. And he's got history with Phoenix, so would he be interested in kind of finishing his career? Now he's made it clear he wants to get closer to the West Coast and make it back home. He's in San Antonio. San Antonio is probably not going to keep him after they just got Harper, after they already had Fox. They got a log jam right now at point guards. They probably would love him for his veteran leadership and like him to kind of continue to coach those guys and mentor them. But I think they also, that franchise historically like really respects veterans and really tries to do right by players after they've done right by the league. And so I think they would definitely like facilitate and be open to like letting him make a move towards, he wants to make it back out west somewhere. So to me, that says either like the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Suns. But he's familiar with the Suns. They're familiar with him. This is a guy that they can trust, that they know what he's already like in a locker room, what he's already like over a season, what kind of player they are going to be getting on everything off of the court. I'm not saying he's still got the same step. I'm not saying he's still got the same ability that he had when he was here at Phoenix the first time. He ain't that player anymore. But also, the Suns probably don't really need that player because they're not trying to really, they're not going to be competing like that this year. This year is about keeping Book, lock him in for a few more years, letting some of these young guys get some serious minutes and develop, getting 1 year closer to having Beal off your books, and trying to shed some more salary cap and become a little bit more flexible and go into next season with a lot of options, with the first time in a while where you can go out and actually aggressively do some moves. That's what they're trying to get to. Chris Paul want to sign up for that, or is he in a spot where he's wanting to go try and chase a ring? If he just wants to enjoy the last couple of years of being in the league, if he just wants to make it out west and continue to kind of get back to this league. I mean, he went to San Antonio. Not exactly like you try to win a title just yet there. It was, you get a chance to play with Wemby, you have some fun, you get to collect a check. Maybe he's up for something like that. That one makes a lot of sense. Not going to pay him a ton. It's also a little, there's some box office appeal there. Him coming back and finishing off with this team, and he's still Chris Paul. Still a guy that's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't hate it. For the right price, I don't hate it. Go same kind of deal, little 2-year deal, 1-1. That might be the piece That might be the ticket. They're not great options out there. I don't think Dennis Schroder really ends up being in the mix. I think he looks at some of these other teams. I don't think Gary Payton leaves. I think whatever money, unless somebody really throws a ton of money at me, stays there. So that kind of leaves Chris Paul, Malcolm Brogdon, Spencer Dinwiddie. Those aren't horrible options. Got to find a way to get one of them right now, though, because they are getting scooped up. There's a lot of other teams in the market for a point guard right now. And, boy, they need one. Tyus Jones moves on. Disappointing. Really disappointing, kind of the way that it all worked out there. And part of me actually hoped that he stayed for, they got him for another year, and it was a fresh start with the new coaching staff. But now it's about getting an actual point guard on this roster and one that can get you another year over or possibly 2 years over. Those are the lists. Anyone like those names? Any one of them stick out to you and that's the guy that you really want? Let me know. I think Brogdon's the best one of the three to take right now, but Chris Paul's probably a very close second. Let me know what y'all think.